Hello and welcome to another episode of Hair Bear Short Stories. And if you found your way to my cozy little corner of the internet, and you like a story or two, sit back and relax, have a listen, have a laugh, take your shoes off, and set a spell. So it's usually at this point we have a little back and forth, such as it is, where I say, hey, I've noticed this, have you noticed this? Leave it in the comments. It's what my esteemed other, the incomparable Ink Reads, refers to as her Inkalog. But leave a story, whatever you like, in the comments. Say hello, leave a riddle, leave a dad joke, leave something you've noticed, and we'll get right into it with chapter 4 of a bit of my own work I call Whole. And the name of this chapter is Nana. The clerk handed a package wrapped in white paper over the counter. Here you are, Mrs. Baker.
Call me Nana, dear,
said the elderly woman he handed it to. She placed the small package in a brown paper bag.
I haven't been called Mrs. Baker since my James was your age.
The young clerk grinned, probably at a memory of his own grandmother. Of course, she made the boy think of his grandmother. Nana could easily be mistaken for Mrs. Bloody Doubtfire. The thought left her inordinately pleased. All right, Nana, see you next week. With a matronly smile and a pinch to the boy's cheek, which he tolerated with endearing good grace, Nana turned and walked out of Dean and DeLuca's. Settling into her old Chrysler, she said a quick prayer to whatever deity might be listening at the time, and turned the key. The engine rumbled gamely to life, proving yet again that optimism does at times triumph over experience. Nana had no fear of God's wrath for not communicating exclusively with him in times of need, i.e., most every day, because at her age, she reasoned, it was in one's best interest to keep their options open. Any compassionate creator would surely understand that. Indeed, she thought, someone with considerable clout must hold her in good stead just to judge by her good fortune. Many were the times when the funds she derived from her meager pension and her part-time job at the tasting room in St. Helena had come short of filling her basic needs. Yet, always some kind soul would arrive to carry the load. And not even those of her family, which was mostly comprised of grandchildren and their families scattered across the country. As she got on the main road and picked up speed heading south toward Yountville, she felt her steering wheel wobble slightly in her hands, reminding her on the subject of kind souls that she needed to pay a visit to Ronald Wilson, her mechanic, who was married to Linda, the daughter of her late friend Susan. He was always so good about letting her pay her bill in installments as she was able to, and that was when he allowed her to pay him at all. She often came round for tea with Linda to talk about this and that, how Linda's father was still stubbornly living on his own in the old house, how her daughter-in-law was having a difficult pregnancy. The poor thing. Nana would have to pop by with something to cheer her up, because after all, didn't she have all of the boys' baby things tucked away somewhere? And so on. At such times, if Ronald had the time to spare, of course, her car would be looked after, maintained, and sometimes have minor repairs done. And while Nana would never dream of asking for such favors, she did always leave her keys in the ignition when she visited. Later in the week, Ronald would unfailingly find a case of wine at his door that he had casually mentioned being partial to. And then, of course, there was dear Benjamin, toward whose house her geriatric vehicle was currently lumbering. Benjamin had immediately set himself apart from the other patrons of Nana's tasting room the first time he arrived there. First, he carefully counted out the tasting charge in small bills and change. He brought notes. He made more notes. He shyly and systematically asked Nana for each wine available for tasting, then set about dismantling and analyzing them. Nana, impressed by his dedication, told him that if he cared to come by after closing, she might be able to find him some wine not currently on the tasting list. The expression of excitement and gratitude that lit his face stole her heart. And thus, Nana had gained another grandson. The package from Dean and DeLuca's was in fact a block of his favorite sharp cheddar, which just happened to pair brilliantly with a leftover Cabernet she had brought from work. She had been waiting for weeks to have a bottle of this particular year left at the end of the day, with as much as 2 glasses left in it, for she and Benjamin to share, compare, and discuss as they did twice a week with different wines each time. Nana had few greater pleasures in her life. Nana turned off the main road, and her car bumped and rumbled as the old girl made its way ponderously along a dirt road through row upon row of neatly pruned grapevines. She arrived at Benjamin's cottage, nestled in the heart of the vineyard, and with a package of cheese in her pocket and the nearly full wine bottle in a sturdy carrying case, she tottered toward the front door. Before she turned the doorknob, she reached into her other pocket and produced a large bone-shaped dog biscuit. Setting the wine case well off to the side, she eased the door open a fraction of an inch and placed the biscuit near the crack about knee height. From within the house came a sudden flurry of sound and scrabbling of little paws, as of something small leaping to its feet and rushing across the room. Presently, she heard an insistent waffling sound at the door and saw a small pink tongue attempting determinedly to wedge its way through the narrow opening. Then, in a single balletic movement that belied her age, she stepped to the side, threw the door wide open, and hurled the doggy treat off into the vines with all her strength as a small, fuzzy body rocketed off in pursuit. Nana retrieved the wine, entered the cottage, chuckling to herself, and shut the door behind her. It would only take a minute or two for the little scamp to find the bone and work out what had happened. When her eyes adjusted to the gloom within, she beheld the young man, half-dressed and wearing one shoe, stretched out across his bed. His feet were dangling over the edge of the mattress, and his slack-jawed expression, along with a faint nasal symphony, bespoke of his current state of blissful unconsciousness. Nana clucked her tongue softly. "Diddle, diddle, dumpling, my son John." Reasoning that it would be unkind, if not downright futile, to rouse the slumbering figure, she went about setting up the table. This wasn't such a difficult job once she had found some old crates in the corner to take the place of a table leg that had recently succumbed to the same fate which had befallen two of its brethren. Those had been replaced by a short 2x4, 3 concrete blocks, and, of course, a book of matches. Nobody knows why, but it's a quirk of the universe that the amount of space under any wobbly table leg is the exact thickness of a book of matches. Through all the commotion of makeshift furniture repair, Nana's footfalls as she bustled about, and the clinking of mismatched china, the boy stirred not a whit. There was a muted pop as Nana pulled the cork out of the wine bottle. His hand twitched. The wine made a gurgling, trickling sound as Nana expertly poured exactly half of what remained in the bottle into 2 wine glasses. Ben blinked, sat up, and looked about muzzily. "Whatcha?" said Nana cheerfully. Ben's bleary inspection of his cramped surroundings soon ended in spotting Nana standing by the table with an empty wine bottle. "Oh," he yawned. "Hi, Nana." "I thought I might have to check for a pulse," said Nana. "For all that you stayed napping through the ruckus I was making, and then you snapped straight awake with a tinkle of crystal." She looked at him fondly. "Perhaps you are meant for the world of viticulture after all." Nana's northeastern English accent, only slightly muddled by her many years in Napa, never failed to bring a smile to Ben's face. "Actually," he said, removing his errant shoe and selecting a mostly clean shirt from the pile on the floor, "the sound of liquid pouring while I was sleeping just made me dream that I was in public with no pants, and I really had to go to the—" He grinned. "Never mind. Probably not something you'd want to be thinking about just before a tasting." "Indeed," said Nana. "I've waited all month to get my hands on this vintage, and I'll not have the strange workings of your subconscious mind spoil it, young man." "You finally got it, then?" Ben said, his face suddenly animated as he threw off the last vestiges of slumber. "Piddle dream, my arse," thought Nana. "It's the grave that makes you come alive, my lad." There came a scratching and plaintive whining from the front door. "That be your wee mongrel," said Nana, and added with an impish grin, "He didn't get the best of me this time." It had taken some experimentation for Nana to devise a method of keeping Scruff from greeting her by knocking her about the knees. After Scruff had been let in, the cheese sliced, and the wine given time to breathe, they sat at the jury-rigged table and began their scrutiny of the long-awaited Cabernet. So we have another character in the mix. I spent a lot of time building and introducing characters, obviously, in the beginning of the story here. Nana is based on a couple people I know, but heavily on a character or two from some of my favorite books. If you know me, you know which books. But let me know what you think of this latest chapter and of Nana. And if you did like this story, make sure you slap a paw on the like and subscribe button. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, be good, and bear up.